Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a strategy video for the 2021 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. What I usually like to cover in these strategy videos is, first of all, I like to do a recap of the preview video that we do prior to the strategy one, just to do a little bit of a refresher. And then I like to bring in tee time pairings and the buckets. So all of the buckets that I have now created. Guess what, guys? We have additional buckets. This show could easily be called the Bucket Show, but it's not going to be. The reason I create all these buckets is to really narrow down a player pool, and that is the primary purpose of this video, is try to find our real best players, or at least the best lineups we possibly can. So I like to talk about the last week and last year buckets. I've introduced a strokes gain bucket a few weeks ago. And this week, I'm going to introduce course history bucket and a recent form bucket. And hopefully what this will do for you guys is give you an idea of how to start lineups. You know, usually the DFS, analysts, or I should just call them data analysts, because that's pretty much what they are. They're looking at strokes gain, that kind of stuff, and saying, hey, we've seen success here with these golfers. Well, guess what? Inside the top 10, it is ever changing. It's not just one type of player. It's a ton of different players. And really, if you want to win a GPP, you're going to have to figure that out. Now, you can go different routes to get there, but I'm really trying to hone in and focus on who those golfers are, as opposed to just pivoting, off of high-owned golfers, hoping that a low-owned guy will go off and win. That's one way to do it. I think that's the easy road. Like I said, I'm trying to hone in. So that is the purpose of all these buckets. Before we get into the video, I want to remind you guys, you can see timestamps in the description below. Also, I have chapter mode enabled, where the progress bar is cut up into segments. Hovering over those segments will show you what part of the video is what. And also, we have our very first sponsor. So I'm going to plug that right now. Have you guys heard of Statement Games? If you haven't, you should try it out, because it's a lot of fun. It's a different way of doing fantasy sports. It's basically free. I mean, it is free, but I think you can put some money into it. When I started out, I basically got 75 coins. Just right away. Right now I'm up to 95 because I've played a couple contests, won a couple of them, or placed pretty decent in them. But yeah, you start out with 75, I'm pretty sure. And then from there, you just enter contests. So if I wanted to enter one of the PGA contests that's going on right now, I can see how much the entry fee is. So it's going to take 5 coins to get there. First gets 21, second gets 10, third gets 5. And that obviously takes away, but every day you get a daily spin. I've already used mine. So if you were to go to this get coins part, there'll be usually like a little spinning wheel. That will give you coins. So every single day you can log in, spin that wheel, and it will land on 1 to 6. So you will get those coins awarded to your account, and from there you can play. You can also create contests. Let's see, if I go to lobby, PGA, create, I can create a contest, decide what the entry fee is going to be, how many participants, and it will show you the coins, first prize, second, and third. From there, then you create, you would then enter one of the contests, which I'm going to do right now. I'll show you what I've already entered. And it's fine if you guys check it out. I'm not too worried about it. But basically, there are all these available statements that are made, and it's up to you to decide which one you think is going to happen. So you have a lot of these matchup statements. Tournament winner will birdie the 72nd hole. Well, the 72nd hole is going to be a par 5. I feel strongly about it. You can see the points next to the statement, and you get awarded those points. Obviously, you're playing against other people, so how many points you get. So let's say, you only get like 3 of these correct, but they end up being your highest, confident rating ones. You'll get 10, 9, and 8 points respectively. Now, if you get all 10 statements correctly, you're obviously going to win, but you can see how many points you would end up getting. You know, obviously it's 1 + 2 + 3, that so on and so forth. But yeah, basically every statement has an opposite statement. So you can see I have Alex Noren versus Jason Day. I'm picking Alex Noren to win or to beat in that matchup. If you didn't agree, obviously remove and then enter the Jason Day one. So this is kind of a fun way to play. I've only played golf, so I can't really say what the football, baseball, hockey experience is like, but it's a fun way. And like I said, it's free. With your coins that you make, you can go into the app store, whatever phone you're on. It doesn't work off a desktop. I've checked it out through the phone. 500 coins redeems for $5 for a gift card, and the different types of gift cards are right here. You can see what they are. So it's a fun way to play. And if you were to play daily, you know, and you do well, obviously you can accrue points pretty quickly. Easy way to make some gift card money, basically. So that is the plug. Let's go back into the strategy video and get into this. So what I forgot to do with my preview video is talk about the target score, what I think the target score is going to be. Every single year when we look at all the results, we can see basically 19 under is the average. We see it like 4 times. It shows up 3 times. Sorry. No, it was 4. Shows up 4 times. I don't think the score is going to be that low. Primarily because of 2 things. The weather doesn't really look to be that great. Usually during this time of the year, it's cold there, it's wet, that kind of stuff. It's going to be that way as well. We don't have a Pro-Am, which I think a lot of people are equating that to being lower scores, which the logic makes sense in a way, but we also aren't playing the Monterey Peninsula Golf Course, which is the easier of the 2 golf courses, or the 3 golf courses that are in rotation. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher to score. I think it's going to be a couple strokes under the target score. So I don't think 19 under is going to win. I think somewhere between 15 and 17, 15 and 18 under. So really close, but I'm leaning more towards the 15 part. And what that does, why that's important is, you know, certain golfers have different makeups of what type of golfer they are. Some are really good at birdie fest. Some are really good at par fest, you know, the grinded out type of golf courses. I don't necessarily think that's what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, but I think that opens it up to basically the entire field, which I know doesn't help any of you guys at home, but it brings in players like Jason Day and Jordan Spieth. I know Jordan had a great week last week. I wouldn't have forecasted him having a good week this week. He got really lucky in the desert. He had a lot of clean lies where if he was at another golf course, he would not have. So that has to be looked at. I mean, hitting from the desert floor with no trees in front of you is pretty easy. You get a lot of spin and you can put it, you know, fairly close to the hole. It really isn't, there's nothing going to be in the way. But here, the rough isn't going to be as thick as like a US Open. I know a lot of people think about Pebble and that being a US Open venue. Usually during this time of the year, it's not as difficult to play. So I'm not really going to be concerned about Jordan going in the rough. It's a short golf course. It's not, both courses are pretty short. It's not going to require driver off the tee all that much. Jordan just doesn't have, we just can't have him hit the ball in the Pacific Ocean. That's basically it. And I think he's going to be able to remove himself from that, from doing that. So I do like golfers like Jason Day and Jordan Spieth. So that's all I have to go with target score. Let's go into a recap of the preview video. Now, we covered a ton of things in that preview video. So many things that I kind of forgot what they all were, but I do have it on screen. We did talk about the tournament information. This is this tournament has changed a lot. There is no Pro-Am. We have 2 golf courses instead of 3. We have the cut after 2 rounds instead of 3 rounds. What else do we have? I mean, that's essentially it, so I'm not going to go further into that. Weather forecast. I looked at the weather prior to jumping on and doing this video. It hasn't changed much. There's a higher percentage rain on Thursday now than there was yesterday, so that probably might keep going up. We anticipated Thursday was going to be wet anyways. I'm not too worried about that. The wind the wind is the main thing to look at, and that seemed to kind of stay at the same pace. Saturday and Sunday, it looks like winds will be up to 20 miles an hour on average. That's another reason why I think the score is going to be higher than usual. Remember, golf is opposite. Higher is closer to par, basically, and lower means further away from par, going in the negative. So yeah, that's what I feel like with the weather forecast. If it continues to, go in that direction, I could see this tournament being difficult to play in. We looked at the tournament fact sheets, was obviously looking at the two golf courses, how they're going to be set up. The course breakdown is just trying to determine whether or not a draw or a fade matters at this golf course or at this tournament. And there really wasn't any conclusive evidence to say we want one shot shape over another. Like I said, Pebble is kind of wide open enough where offline shots aren't going to matter that much. There aren't a lot of trees between the holes, so you can get away with being a little errant off the tee. The greens are really small. I think that helps a lot of the ball strikers narrow in and focus, trying to find certain spots on the green to hit. So I think it helps them out. It just doesn't need a particular shot shape, so it didn't really matter. We looked at some demographics. I showed you what all the California golfers were. Definitely, again, check out the preview if you want to look at that. We went over the tournament history, which is really course history. But because there are several golf courses here, we were looking at just results of the tournament. Jason Day showed up. Jordan Spieth showed up. There were really the top two guys that played in over 6 events here. And their course history was just as good, or if not better, than most golfers that had 1 or 2 events, at this tournament. So really, those would be the top 2 guys when it comes to tournament history. We looked at historical salaries, and that's an interesting one. I like to do a huge analysis or just really a breakdown of what type of golfers should we kind of anchor our lineups around. And I want to know, is 10K and above a salary that I should actually go for, that I should target and use? And that ended up becoming a yes, because every single year that draft, well, besides 2017, I don't have 2017's DraftKings stats, but 2018 to 2020, we've seen a 10K golfer above inside the top 5. That means you want to be playing a 10K golfer. Likewise, I always want to see where the 6-9 or the 6K golfers are. Do we need to play them or not? That's kind of more up in the air because this tournament is dominated by 7K golfers. I think a lot of it has to do because, much like what we found out, Dustin Johnson withdrew from this tournament. A lot of golfers commit to this tournament and then withdraw for whatever reason. I don't know if it has anything to do with weather forecasts or what ends up being what, but there have been several withdrawals at this tournament over the last 4 years. All of my spreadsheets that I've ever created for this just say out. I'll show you. Like, if I were to go to the 2020 DK page and scroll down to the bottom, I think I can show you. Let me take the filter off. Scroll down to the bottom. Is it here? Okay, we have 2. Maybe it's 2019 that has all of the withdrawals. Oh yeah, I have them hidden. But like, look at that. So this is, DraftKings had them in the player pool to select from. All of these guys withdrew. So this is a tournament that is kind of known for golfers withdrawing. I would definitely keep your eye on that, especially even if I'm talking about these golfers. I don't want you to get too invested in on some golfers because the likelihood of a withdrawal happening. I mean, Jason Day is a perfect example. He is known to withdraw. This could be a golf tournament where he just withdraws before even going to the first tee. You have to consider that. I don't know what it is with this tournament, but it lends itself to people withdrawing. Let's see, what other things do we have? Went over the buckets. Oh, we were talking about salaries. Totally kind of spaced that. One thing I didn't do, now that I remember it, I didn't go over optimal lineups, because that's the other thing when I usually talk about historical salaries, is trying to get you guys more confident with selecting certain price points. So you can see in 2020, we had a 7K golfer, a 7-3, a 10-3, a 9-5, and two other 7s. So there's 4 7K golfers right there, a 9-5 and a 10-3. You would have had to have left $1,500 on the table to make that happen, but you easily could have probably added Berger into the mix. Trying to figure out how I can make that. Like, yeah, you could have done something like this. This would have been 50,000, and this would have worked just as well, just the same. It wouldn't have scored as many points, but it would have been just fine. And that would have included a 9K, an 8K, a 10K, 2 7s, and a 6. That's usually kind of the traditional makeup, that how I like to create my lineups. Definitely like to go down that route. So that was 2020. You can check out 2019. Again, we have 2 9s, a 10, a 7, a 6-8, and a 6-5. That equals 50,000 exactly. I think you probably could, well, I mean, you could, but you didn't have to take out, 9-1 and switch them out with a 7K to go lower. But that was the optimal. You need 2 6K golfers there. 6-8, close to 7. I mean, we can make the argument that, somewhere between 7-2 and 6-8, that's probably kind of a sweet spot for your 5th golfer to choose from. And then obviously your 6th should be in the 6K. It's actually a good ring. 6th golfer in the 6K. Always select your 6th golfer in the 6K. I like it. 2018, again, 10K, Jason Day, Ted Potter, a bunch of 7s, a 9 and 8. So it just shows you the trend of what type of lineup to create. And I will say this, though. We found this out with the salaries, looking at them. 10K and above, we've had 15 over the last 3 years. This year, we only have a total, with DJ withdrawing, we only have a total of 3 golfers that fit that 10K and above mold. We could probably include Will Zalatoris, but if we're being completely fair, it's only 10K and above. And obviously you see Daniel Berger, Paul Casey, and Patrick Cantley being the only 10K. So there are 2 less 10K golfers than usual. Does that mean we might not see a golfer inside the top 10? It's very possible. The odds go down. So do with that as you will. I'm still going to be playing a 10K golfer because I do like Daniel Berger and I do like Patrick Cantley. That's the reason they're the thumbnail of the video. Let's see. We went over optimal lineups. We kind of went over the bucket system. I'm going to leave that for a little bit later. We talked about grass stats, the best POA golfers. Really, there aren't that many in this field. By the way, this field is just awful. It's atrocious. So I'm not too concerned with trying to get pretty and find the best, POA golfers. We went over this in the preview. You can obviously see it right here. Again, I'm not getting pretty with this, but it's a lot of your top end guys. A couple 7K golfers here. Again, not going to worry too much about that. But anyways, I'm going to leave the buckets to a little bit later. That should be a recap of the preview. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go into tee time pairings. And we're going to make this a little shorter than it usually is, because I tend to talk about everybody that is highlighted in color. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to scroll through this. I advise you guys to pause the video if you want to read who some of these players, or look at some of these players. But anything that's highlighted here, I'll even highlight over this. The dark green color is scoring average and DK being better than field average. Light green is just the DK average being better than field average. And the yellow color is scoring average better than field average. So you can see everyone that's highlighted here, that's what it ends up being. Now, I created a SweetSpot score, and I'm only going to be talking about the golfers that are highlighted with the SweetSpot score. Now, the SweetSpot score, it ends up covering, I'll go over it right now. I put some weights into the bucket combination, the official World Golf Ranking, the grass stats, both the overall average and the top 10 POA percentage. I did add course history and recent form, but with the buckets that I've created, I think I could probably just remove these. I did this during the waste management, after I did the review. And more guys in the top 10 got better ratings than what they ended up being without having those removed. So what it told me is it's not that important to look at those two stats. So I think I could remove them. I'm going to leave them on for this tournament just to see what it's like. But either way, I also look at recent form, DraftKings average, and scoring average. Kind of just do my own little formula to get them all close to 100. You know, the best golfers are going to be close to 100. And then I score them all and then rank them over here, and that's where the score comes from. So now that I've explained what that is, the first group in the morning, Brian Harman and Matt Jones. Both of these guys have gotten a lot of love. They're playing with John Senden, who is dead last, pretty much dead last in my scoring. I like Harman and Jones. I think if you're doing a showdown slate, it wouldn't be bad to pair those guys up. They're going off in the morning, obviously. So I think it's a pretty decent play. Both of them have really good sweet spot scores, meaning all those stats we just talked about, they all go in their favor. So I don't mind those guys. And if you also want to put them in your week long, pairing them up together, probably not the wisest, but if you wanted to choose one over the other, I think that's pretty smart. I think that could help them out. And it also could help John Senden out as well. So if you needed some salary relief, it's a choice. It's a choice. If you know the bucket system, you know it's not a good choice. So anyways, scrolling on, I'm going to go slow. I'm going to stop a little bit so you guys can pause the video whenever until I get to the next group, which obviously I have Harry Higgs and Alex Noren. So I saw a stat on Twitter saying that Harry Higgs, why his tournament history at this tournament is good is because of the Monterey Peninsula golf course, where he has a better scoring average, or he's gaining more strokes at that course than the other two. He's actually losing strokes at the other two courses. So really his performance was mostly aided by his Monterey Peninsula results. You can take that for what it's worth. I'm not going to be worried about it. And I don't have the stats to show you. I haven't gotten there quite yet. In the future, that is something I'm looking to do. But again, you can use it however you want. I like Alex Noren this week. I also think Harry Higgs is a decent play. Now, they're paired up with Sean Stephanie, who kind of low-key is a decent golfer to choose from as well. He's very streaky. Haven't seen him in over a year. I'm just kind of going from past results, like thinking back to 2019, basically. I mean, I don't remember seeing him in 2020, but again, we also had that very long break, that COVID suspension, basically. I do believe he played in the fall swing last year. I know he has shown up. I don't know if he's going to now. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about him. It's up to you guys if you want to play him. He's going to garner maybe a 1%, maybe 2%. And I usually create 100 lineups. So that's 1 out of 100. Do with it as you will. Scrolling down a little bit more. Again, I'll stop, pause the video. You guys can see some of these other guys that are paired up together. The next group is, this is our first kind of quote unquote dynamite group. Their total together is 25 for the sweet spot score. Paul Casey, Phil Mickelson, Max Homa. I like them all. I don't like Paul Casey's bucket score, but we have seen 6-1s inside the top 10 before. No better than third place, but either way, being inside the top 10 and I mean, if you're going to pay up and pay $10,400 for him, as long as he finishes inside the top 10 at this tournament, it's going to be fine. So I don't have an issue playing Paul Casey. I'm just not going to play as much as I probably would, with him being the second ranked golfer in my model. Now, Phil, a lot of people giving him hate. He has one of the best bucket combination scores, not one of the best strokes gained bucket scores, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I don't mind Phil here. This is a golf course I think he can do well at, and I think he can always do well at this golf course. It's only 7,000 yards. Again, there really aren't trees that line line up between holes, so you can spray it wherever you want. It's just how great is your short game if you do that? How great is your recovery if you do that? And Phil's is one of the best on tour, even at his age of 50 years old. So I do like Phil. And Max Homa, don't mind him. He has good tournament history, I believe. He is from California. I think this is a good spot for him as well. Going down a little bit more, our next group with a combined sweet spot score of 54, Brandt Snedeker, Francesco Molinari, Stuart Sink. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you know I kind of was poking around fun at this group because it is one of the biggest snooze fests that we have to endure on featured groups for PGA Tour Live. I'm not really excited to watch it, but the group in itself, not a terrible group. I don't think a lot of people really are going to be playing Brandt Snedeker. I'm one of them, but I'm starting to kind of change my tune about it because I do like Francesco Molinari, and Stuart Sink isn't a bad play either. Those three guys together, savvy veterans, I think will play smart golf. They won't be outraced or anything like that by a younger, more stronger guy, or they won't be slowed down by, whomever. But I think a pretty decent group. Scrolling down a little bit more, again, I'll pause so you guys can pause and take down some of these names. Going down a little ways here before we get to our next group, which is fine. I do kind of want to mention Maverick McNeely. I do like him, and Brian Stewart is it's actually a group that I don't mind whatsoever. But coming down finally to our next group that's highlighted, I only highlighted this because I do like Kevin Streelman. The bucket score is not the greatest, and Scott Stallings. Like both of them together, they're under 50 for the sweet spot score. They're obviously playing with one of the worst golfers in the field. Matt Every can get hot. He can, but I'm not like that's not what I'm anticipating. I do like these two golfers just because they can keep to their own and play this tournament pretty decently. But the next dynamite group with a combined sweet spot score of 48, Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Nick Taylor. I don't want to call these guys essentially the same type of golfer because they're not. But when it comes to how they're playing currently, maybe not so much Nick Taylor, but Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler, very similar. I don't see a lot of accuracy coming from these guys. I feel like, they're very fidgety. They're always going through some kind of change nowadays with either their swing, their putting, or whatever. I think these two, let's put it this way. They're either going to draft off each other really well or they're going to crash and burn together. I don't think there's, obviously there can be different ways about it. I'm not going to really, with me saying that, I'm not going to pair these guys up a lot together. I will be playing both of them. I'll be playing all three of them. And I might, out of 100 lineups, I might create one Jordan Ricky lineup, one Ricky Nick lineup, and then one Nick Jordan lineup. That's it. That's all that I'm going to do when it comes to combining those guys. Now, if I was creating 10 lineups, I might create one Jordan Ricky lineup and that's it. But I don't know. I'd be pretty hard pressed to do that. Not sure how I exactly feel about that. Scrolling down a little bit more though, the best group in this entire field would be the Patrick Cantlay, Jason Day, Siwoo Kim group, and a combined score of 22. So 3 better than a previous group. I can't remember exactly, but they had 25. This one, I really don't see anything wrong with this. I am skeptical of Jason Day. He used to hit a draw, like a predominant draw. I know he's tried to change to hit a fade. If he was back to his draw days, hitting the draw consistently, Patrick Cantlay, that's all he hits off the tee, basically. He hits a very straight ball or a very minimal draw. And if Jason Day could just follow that, I think it's perfect. I think this group would be a perfect group. I think Siwoo hits a fade. I believe that's what I have down. Yeah, he hits a fade. But I don't think that's really going to bother him. So I like the group. I don't know how much I'm going to play together, but it's going to give me a little bit more confidence to play one or the other. And it also gives me more confidence in selecting one as an anchor spot, which for me, it's going to be Patrick Cantlay. Really like Cantlay. Obviously, the best golfer in this field, and I don't think it's close. The next group, Jim Furyk, Daniel Berger, Ryan Armour. Probably a group that, like Jim Furyk and Ryan Armour, I don't hear many people talking about. But All three of them show up in the Sweet Spot score pretty decently. Berger's obviously my third ranked golfer. Furyk is 18 and Armour's 59th. Nothing about any of their scores, their bucket scores or their strokes gained bucket, none of it is flashing don't play me. Like, all of it's good. So to me, I think that's a sneaky group to select from. I think it's going to pay dividends. Play actually two of those guys, I think, is going to be very helpful. Our next group, Kyle Stanley, Will Zalatoris, Tom Lewis. Now, this barely gets under, actually it equals exactly 100, and I only highlight if they're under 100. All of them last year ones, different last week buckets. I like Will Zalatoris, as do a lot of people. But if you wanted to pair them up, do it with Kyle Stanley or Tom Lewis, especially during showdown slates. This kid is good, and I think it would be foolish not to play him. I think a lot of my lineups are going to start with Cantlay and go right to Will Zalatoris. So I think that's a good way to play. And we're out of our tee time pairing. So let's go ahead and dive into the buckets. I actually created a bucket tab, which I'm going to start including with the rest of my videos. Usually I hold this in the notes tab, but this is going to be looking at last year and last week. And it's also going to be looking at course history and recent form. So all this aims to do is to analyze trends. That's essentially what it is. I am capturing the frequency of finishing positions that golfers have either last year or last week, throwing them into these ranges, and it's always by 20, so 1 to 20, 20 to 40. And then just finding out which range, which bucket is the best bucket to choose from, which shows up the most. Do we have 100% likelihood of them finishing inside the top 5 or even top 10? That's what this aims to do, to show you guys, to show myself. Same goes with the course history. Now, course history doesn't have solid numbers. Finishing positions are always round numbers. We're going to have decimal points when it comes to course history, but that's okay. We're throwing them into these ranges, 1 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60. Again, I'm capturing all the golfers inside the top 5, all the golfers inside the top 10, ranking them based off of the frequency, giving us a confidence rating. Again, looking to see, is there 100% exposure, 100% that this bucket shows up inside the top 10? We did talk about the last year, last week bucket. Obviously, I had mentioned target golfers who did not play in this tournament the year before. Also, target golfers who did not play the week before. Now, if you want to put those into combinations, that's fine, because that is a decent combination to show. And actually, I never went over the bucket combinations. I think I just mentioned it shortly. I will actually add this to the bucket, the bucket tab down here, but for now it's just housed in the notes tab. But either way, you can see the top 5, the frequency that any of these bucket combinations shows up inside the top 5. Same goes with top 10. So, when we're looking at the bucket system in itself, where you see all of the rankings, again, this is just a combination of last year and last week. Last year 1, last week 1 together show up 14 times inside the top 10. So all top 10 golfers going back to 2013 all the way to present day, we've seen 14 1-1s inside the top 10. So again, it's up to you. You guys can choose to do that bucket combination. That's just to give you kind of a confidence rating, that kind of thing. The fun part about all of this is now I get to bring in course history and recent form. And if you think I'm crazy for doing this, if you watch any of my previous videos, I have all of this information right here. I've had this here before I even started doing videos. I used to look more at recent form and tournament history, course history. And again, I mean, for me, it's like looking at all the numbers here. You can obviously see 40 through 60 shows up a ton. But if you really wanted to differentiate your lineups, if I were to go ahead and put a filter on this and we, filter it by top price down, you can see all the different recent form averages. maybe this was a year you thought Matt Kuchar was going to do well because he was coming in with great recent form. Well, he showed up, 22nd place. Same goes with Patrick Reed. You might have thought he was going to do well. He finished 22nd as well. But if I were to go and filter by finishing position, we only saw one golfer who had, really good recent form do well at this tournament. So it's a way to tell you, don't just select golfers with great recent form. It's also a way to tell you, don't select golfers with the best course history. Filtering out by these, you can see what their finishing position is. I'm just going to get rid of this. I don't want to see that. But you can see of the top 20 guys here, how many of them show up inside the optimal lineup, how many obviously show up inside the top 20. You can see this year for this tournament, the guy obviously went heavy on tournament history because this is the $5 GPP winning lineup. Everyone who's highlighted in blue, everyone shows up inside the top 20. So he obviously created a lineup that way, which is really interesting. Let me see if we can find that with 2020. I didn't even think about doing this, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to throw a filter on this, actually. Sometimes I don't have that for whatever reason. But let me double check to see what the tournament history was. Pretty darn close. 4 golfers. That can't be right. Why would Scott Stallings be up there? Cannot be right. Oh, wow. Actually, yeah, it can be. This is what I was bringing up in the preview. I can't believe that's an actual thing. So Scott Stallings was in the winning lineup, and he missed the cut for the $5 GPP winning lineup. It's insane. Again, that was because there was 3 rounds of golf after a cut, and that's why he shows up. That's incredible. That threw me for a loop. I don't remember ever seeing that from last year. It's not in my notes or anything like that. That's insane. Obviously, we're not going to have that this year because we have 2 rounds of golf before the cut. But you can see the $5 winning GPP lineup had 4 golfers with really good course history. Obviously, one of them missing the cut. Either way, he still won a lot of money. So yeah, tournament history, it shows up quite a bit. But when it comes to selecting all of the golfers, you need to see the different types of course history. Maverick McNeely with a missed cut the year before, or sometime before, with that 85 tournament history, average finishing position, 36.29. That's obviously a different one. But yeah, it's all about mixing up your lineups, trying to figure out what the best play is. And the reason that I do the buckets is to try to figure out that combination. So in the future, I don't have this right now. It will be for the next video, though. I don't have it in my optimizer to select all of this. And I don't really necessarily want to talk about every single bucket because we'd be here forever. So all I'm going to say is I do have an optimizer. Obviously, you guys have seen this before. And it really looks at, what I have to do. I actually have to load in the information because I totally forgot to do that. Don't mind me. But when it comes to, creating these lineups, the optimizer, what it will do eventually, obviously currently it does not do this, but what it plans to do is to look at all of the constraints, all the conditionals that I'm going to end up having on there and spitting out the correct, I shouldn't say correct, but it's going to spit out the best combination based off of all of my constraints, which I'm excited for. So I know this is very compelling, but I am almost done. One last piece. All right, we're ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and put this over here. I have loaded now all of the information for this tournament. I can set all of my constraints here. So obviously you guys can see that. You saw this during my other tournaments. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. But I have all of these buttons over here, run optimizer, save lineup, that kind of cool stuff. I have all of my min and maxes here. This is kind of already preset. This is what I've found to be the best way to do this. I have now added a ownership column to tell me how much I am owning a golfer. But again, I'm going to use all of these constraints. Like I can set all of these constraints. Right now it only shows last year bucket, last week, strokes gained bucket, and then the salary. But next week we're going to include the course history and tournament history, all of those things. But I guess to go back to that just briefly, what I want to tell you is, you know, our top ranked course history bucket would be golfers inside that 20 to 40 range. So if you're looking for, I mean, anywhere below 60 is pretty decent, but really the sweet spot is finding golfers in that 20 to 40 range, sprinkling in some with the 1 to 20 range, and then kind of going elsewhere. It doesn't really matter where, but the second ranked bucket would be your 40 to 60. We're obviously going to see a lot of golfers in that range. When it comes to recent form, whether or not you think someone coming in with like really good recent form does better at this golf course, it does not. It is the fourth ranked bucket. So anyone has a 1 to 20 recent form average, your fourth ranked bucket, number one is actually 40 to 60. So golfers kind of coming in with middling recent form does really, like they do really well here. And if I were to go ahead, come to my recent form tab, and look at all the recent form averages, we only have 5 golfers in that 1 to 20 range. And then a pretty decent amount inside the 20 to 40. Most notably to me, Daniel Berger. He'll definitely be one of the players that I want to play. Same with Alex Noren. I also really like Patrick Cantlay. I like all 3 of these, actually all 4 of these golfers. But this is what I'm saying, why I like to look at recent form. Chances of all 4 of those golfers finishing inside the top 10, very unlikely. I don't even think we see that at any point in time. Never mind. We did have that in 2018. Now, 2018, how many total did we have? We had 9. So this week we have 6 total golfers inside. Oh, I'm sorry. No. We're looking at the wrong thing. We had 10 in 2018. This week we have, or this year we have 5. So the likelihood of all 4 of them showing up, not very high. That's kind of the purpose of this video, is to, again, show you, don't go heavy on recent form guys. It's not going to show up that well for you. It's not going to do that well. Your number one recent form bucket was 40 to 60. So it's really the golfers in here. Siwoo Kim, Sam Burns. Hey, good reason to play Sam Burns if you didn't already have one. This group is usually always bigger than any of the other groups. Ricky Fowler's in here, so there's a good reason to play Ricky, I suppose. Or a good way to think of that. Matthew Neesmith, I know he was being talked up a lot. Kevin Streelman, Jim Furyk, Jordan Spieth. A lot of great golfers in this range. And really, again, looking at the min-maxes, you know, average is around 2. We've gone up to 4 before. We've seen 6. We've also seen 8. So mix up your lineups, basically, is all I'm trying to get at. But anyways, let's go back into the optimizer. We'll get more into that recent form course history buckets in future videos, but we're already running at 44 minutes. I want to show you what the number one optimized lineup is, using all the constraints we have here, using the metrics that I'm using. It would be a pretty decent lineup if I have to admit. Patrick Cantlay, Paul Casey, Jim Furyk, Harry Higgs, Stuart Sink, Akshay Bhatia. I'm going to save that lineup because it's a good lineup. And you can see now my ownership actually ends up saving. I'm going to go ahead and hide this column. You don't need to see that. That's for the randomized 6K optimizer. This will change this metric over here if I were to go ahead and randomize. I'm not going to do it yet. But if I didn't want a Patrick Cantlay lineup, what would be the next optimal lineup? Using the sweet spot score, that is. It'd be Paul Casey, Daniel Berger, Brian Harmon, Jim Furyk, Harry Higgs once again, and now Joseph Bramlett. So interesting there. I'm going to save that as well. I know I'm bouncing a little bit, but there is one key piece that I forgot to mention throughout this video, and that is the strokes gained buckets. So I split everything up into strokes or into buckets. Obviously, you know that. But for this, I have the different types of combinations here at the top. Everything positive, that's self-explanatory. Positive off the tee, positive putting. That actually includes every golfer that's within this bucket. Then I go positive off the tee, positive putting. And this is bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3. And it goes on as we move further right. Negative off the tee, positive putting. That is bucket number 4. Negative off the tee, negative putting is bucket number 5. And no strokes gained. So as I was going through this, if you wanted to pause and look at all the golfers within these groups, it's worthy. It's noteworthy because I do also have how many you want to choose from each of these buckets. And this comes from all the previous weeks that I've ever done this. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is from the Waste Management Open. This is how every tournament has looked, basically. We have a ton of golfers here that are doing well, out of this positive off the tee, positive putting combination. Obviously, again, using both golfers from here, and you can't see it, but it's split up. It's basically these golfers are mixed in with other golfers that are part of this bucket. But as we go through here, you can see there are less and less golfers as we move right. There's nobody in the no strokes gained. We have a few a pretty good mix of top 10 finishes and top 20 finishes within these buckets. You actually see 2 from each of those strokes gained buckets. And if you wanted to see it in a different way, I can go ahead and I'm changing this all back because I had it sorted by position, but I wanted to sort it by salary. So when you look at salary, obviously seeing green columns here is a very good thing. Everybody in bucket 1 and 2, it's best to choose any golfer in these buckets that are high salary. Scrolling over, Hideki Matsuyama was the high one here at 98. Didn't do great. Obviously, 91 Sky Scheffler did well, but then everyone underneath that, not so great. Matt Wolff at 87, not terrible. I should say at 8,700, not terrible. Not great still, 83, 87. Then we dropped down to 7,500. Jordan Spieth, he finished 4th. Dropped down a little further, 6,900. JT Poston. So your top price guys in bucket 4, probably not the way to go. Same goes with your top price guys in bucket 5. So if we, and we can do that also with the Farmers Insurance Open. Looking at all the results here, I have this all sorted again by finishing position, and you can see again. Bucket 2 dominates all the other buckets. This is a little bit closer to each other. There's more top 20 finishes within the other buckets. But again, it's still dominated by bucket number 2. But I also can do that exact same thing with the salaries, just so you guys can see what it looks like top down. Let's go all the way over here. Again, your top price guys in bucket 1, good way to go. Same with bucket 2. Again, it includes bucket 1, some of them. And then there's kind of a steep drop of missed cuts here, but your top price guys in this bucket, the way to go. And then obviously you can see in this one, a little bit better showing than in the last tournament. Pretty much, it's kind of the same mix. Negative off the tee, positive putting. Your top price guys did not do well here. That 74, 7,500 mark is kind of the key. And then 69, 72 is kind of a good way too. And then bucket 5 actually had a top 20 finish as the top price guy. That was Mark Leishman, a very good sweet spot score. So I guess looking at all this, your top price guys in this bucket might be the way to go. And I can't believe why this is not sorted by salary. I think it's just this bucket though. So all your high price guys, you know, going down here, maybe you look at the top 5, maybe you look at the top 6. I like those golfers. I think that is a good way. Actually, all of them are mixed up. I wonder if I accidentally did this. Apologize for not being prepped for a couple of the things, but as we're looking, you know, obviously the positive off tee, negative putting, you know, looking at the past couple years or the past couple tournaments, the positive off tee, negative, you know, the second guy, I guess Victor Hovland at the Farmers showed up pretty decent. So okay, Paul Casey could do well, but out of these 4 golfers, do you choose all of them? Probably not. I mean, Francesco has shown up in that bucket before and has done well. I don't know. I think it's time. I think it might be, you got to pick one. If I'm making Paul Casey lineups, I don't think I'm mixing them in, or if I'm doing it, it's going to be very sporadic. I'm not going to mix them in with the rest of those other golfers. 9,700 Jordan Spieth. A good reason not to play bucket 4. Top guy has not done well in bucket 4, you know, looking at the last couple weeks. That would be this one right here, right? Negative off tee, positive putting. Yeah. Actually, that 7,400 mark is the route to go. Who is at 7,400? Putnam? Basically any of these guys, maybe? Doug Gim, perhaps? Trying to find some kind of correlation, if there is one. I guess 69 and 75 were the ones that showed up at Waste Management. At Farmers, it was 72, 74. So really 75 maybe to 69, 68. Any 2 golfers in there? It might be a good way to go. And then one last bucket to look at. Max Homa is at the top with Phil Mickelson, so I'm probably not going to be pairing those 2 golfers up together. They are playing together, but, you know, based off of past tournaments, it's not wise to go with the top guys, especially when they are as high priced as they are. Actually, they might be the highest priced golfers in that bucket that we've seen for a while. I'll probably pick one of them, but I'm not going to pick 2. That's for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead. I just want to lock some of these guys so you can see some of the top optimal plays. I think we're going to end up continuously seeing Harry Higgs, Jim Furyk in these lineups, and maybe Brian Harman. We might have to lock them out just to see what the next guys are. And if that's the case, that's fine. So now we have a Daniel Berger, Will Zalatoris, Matt Jones, Furyk, Higgs. Okay, so we can go ahead and lock out Higgs and Furyk. And see what shows up. I'm sure Joseph Bramlett's going to show up again because that's a pretty decent score. Yeah, Bramlett does. Now it's Snedeker, Sink, and Bramlett. Let's see if I can get rid of these guys. What will it be? I think we're always going to see Patrick Cantlay. He is the top ranked guy, and it's not even close. So again, we're getting Casey and... Actually, no, we didn't even get Patrick Cantlay that time. Crazy. There we go. Cantlay, Berger, Jones, Thompson, Bramlett, Batia. Yeah, I intend to create something where I'm not going to continuously see some of these low price guys, and it would not be beneficial for me to keep scrolling up and down to try to block out some of these guys for you guys. So I'm going to leave it there, but hopefully this gave you a good idea of who you should pivot or who you should lock in, what combination of golfers you should stay away from. Obviously, you know, using the strokes gain buckets, try to stay away from pairing up some of those guys together. It wouldn't make sense to. Again, it's a trend analysis that shows that it's not a good idea to do that. For me, I enjoy doing that because I dislike listening to analysts tell us as an audience, strokes gain off the tee or strokes gain approach is the way to go. Well, obviously it isn't. If you look at, 2020, 2019, that kind of stuff, and you see everyone that's at the top of the leaderboard. If I scroll over and look at all the strokes gain stats, I'm sorry, that didn't work out. We're going to see negative approach up here. Unbelievable. You're going to see a bunch of guys with a negative approach. But yet approach is one of the best stats here. That's in 2019 or 2020. 2019, probably very much the same. And we see a few guys here. So if someone's telling you, you want to be targeting these stats, most of us go into it blindly just choosing those stats. Obviously, if you want a better chance to win a GPP, you're going to have to mix it up. And really, using the bucket system is a good way to do that. So that's all I wanted to add. I am going to get out of here now. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the review video, hopefully with news of winning good money. All right, see you later.